This video offers a new and unique interpretation of Cyberpunk 2077. To do so, I'll go deeper and further than most other analytic works on the game. You may agree or disagree with my takes. Regardless, my goal is to present a whole different perspective on the game, its story, and its endings. Because to truly understand Cyberpunk, we have to understand Technofeudalism, a concept which the economist Yanis Varoufakis came up with in a recent book. The term refers to how our current society is transitioning from capitalism to a new system where tech corporations function like modern medieval lords. For Varoufakis, our economic system has fundamentally changed. The cloud, big data, and digital platforms have all become a new virtual land to conquer and exploit, a land divided among tech and corporate giants like Google, Amazon, and Meta. This current state of things is precisely what Cyberpunk portrays, by showing a futuristic world run by powerful corporations trying to control people's lives. More precisely, the game portrays tech companies having immense power over data and access to the net, also known as cyberspace, which is an equivalent to our internet, except even more predominant and powerful. In Cyberpunk 2077, humanity thrives thanks to the net. Without it, people feel lost and powerless. More than ever, the digital world took over people's lives, as it even controls the cybernetic implants humans insert in their bodies. Corporations, by having control over the net, then control everything, from people's behaviors to their bodies. Technofeudalism aptly describes the world of Cyberpunk, as it illustrates how a few corporations are colonizing not only countries and societies, but also human bodies, exploiting people's dependence on the net and the digital world to maintain control. In the database entry found in-game, we learned that the terrorist group behind the bombing of the Arasaka Tower, led by Johnny Silverhand in 2023, felt that corporations had hijacked the future and turned people into consumer slaves. The consumer-slave relationship is part and parcel of techno-feudalism, because consumers are not consuming by choice, but by necessity. This is a true power of corporations. Nothing can escape their grasp, as is clearly stated in another database entry. In the latter half of the 21st century, corporations are international financial behemoths, mega corporations. They have their own political aims, even waging more or less open conflicts against the competition. It's no exaggeration to say that corporations are what shapes the reality and life of an ordinary person. Just take a look around. Every object in your home came off some production line in a factory belonging to one of the megacorps. Another one delivers electricity to your home, so you can watch TV news on the media conglomerate's channel, which in turn has corporations as a majority of its shareholders. Everything you drink, even to a certain extent the air you breathe, it all comes from global concerns. Even if you're blissfully unaware of this, the corporations still influence every aspect of your life. They're at your fingertips. Those fingers are chrome. What manufacturer? Exactly. Consuming the digital world is compulsory, so much so that consumers are also slaves, owned by corporations that control both the material goods people have to use, but also the digital platforms people interact with on a daily basis. The example of the chrome fingers reveals that the human body, by being artificially enhanced, is now controlled by mega corporations. The rhetoric here is worth a closer look. Corporations and their services are at our fingertips, both literally and figuratively. Figuratively because people have access to a vast array of services with the least amount of friction imaginable. This convenience is dangerous, as people are blissfully unaware of the price they pay in the process, in that they are literally losing their humanity, giving parts of themselves to mega corporations in exchange for more comfort and ease of use. The chrome fingers represents the literal body parts people are willing to give, unaware of their growing dependence on the corporations producing and owning these cybernetic implants. In his book, Varoufakis mentions that each time someone uses the convenient services of a tech company like Google or Amazon, that person makes a Faustian deal through which they lose a part of themselves, their data, their integrity, in order to have access to the services these corporations provide. The same applies in the world of Cyberpunk, except even more pronounced given how bodies are also affected by this. We ought to understand the game's control over people's bodies as an allegory of our time. the corporations of our contemporary era, by owning the digital platforms we use and much more, modify our behavior and desires, which in a way implies that they modify our actions and movements. If anything, Cyberpunk shines some light on the technofeudalism under which we already live by displaying an extreme version of it we should be afraid of. Now, to understand technofeudalism further, we also need to look at corporate colonialism, a term the game uses often to highlight the domination and influence of tech companies over global economics and politics. There are many ways to understand corporate colonialism. However, in the context of this video, I want to highlight an aggressive type of corporate behavior whose goal is to conquer everything, from lands to digital platforms and, of course, people. This form of colonialism commodifies everything, even religion. That last part is very telling. Upon entering a church, we stumble upon a confession booth, which has now become, in the world of Cyberpunk, a vending machine selling absolutions for $6. This digitalized confession booth is not a mere detail. Somehow, humanity found solace in throwing money at a few pixels. The fact that anyone can absolve themselves through a vending machine means that the digital world is considered to be a place where what occurs there is real, and holds just as much importance and value as a real world, if not more. Consequently, the digital world is equal to the real world, and may even be considered superior. For corporations, the digital world is a new space to colonize and control. Joshua's Questline is yet another excellent example of corporate colonialism, aiming to conquer humans, because it shows how a man who wants to atone for the murder he committed is used by corporations as a way to profit from the authenticity of his redemption. V meets Joshua after receiving a contract to actually kill him. What happens instead is that it convinces V to accompany him and discover more about his situation. V learns soon enough that Joshua's goal is to sacrifice himself on TV. In an interesting turn of events, V can talk to Joshua and make him see how unnecessary this whole endeavor is. Nothing, however, can stop Joshua's death, and the quest ends with him dying on TV. While many players criticized the lack of real choices here, since V's plea for Joshua to stop doesn't change anything, I think it's precisely the purpose. Nothing can stop corporations from profiting, from exploiting people and making money off of them. Joshua himself says it.
It's too late now. There's no going back.
The corporate machine is unstoppable, as we can see when a few seconds later Rachel, who's a brain-dense producer and wants to profit from his sacrifice, comes in and interrupts V and Joshua. That interruption happens during a prayer, that is, during an act that provides a pause, a respite from society. Corporations colonized even moments of respite, so that nothing can escape their control and reach. No matter what, Joshua's death will be recorded, will be made digital for all to see and experience. It's in fact worse than that. For Joshua's death to be useful to society, it has to be digitized, to be made readily available for purchase and consumption in cyberspace. Now that the concepts of technofeudalism and of corporate colonialism have been introduced, we can turn ourselves to the main quest, which contains many layers of interpretations we will dive into, in light of the concepts we introduced. To begin with, the game's story can be understood as a vast allegory of the Theseus paradox, which questions whether a ship remains the same ship if its parts are gradually replaced one by one over time. This paradox resides at the center of Cyberpunk and its protagonist V, who got shot after a heist went wrong but managed to survive thanks to a relic implanted in her brain. Here's a catch. The relic contains the digital mind of Johnny Silverhand, a foreign mind that's slowly taking over V's body. Every part of V's mind is being replaced, bit by bit, by Johnny's, just like in the Theseus paradox, thus sparking questions about identity and what it means for someone to truly be who they are. At first glance, V's story may symbolize how technology is taking over our lives, and how it slowly but surely changes us one part at a time. Just like with the Theseus paradox, we may ask ourselves, are we still the same as we were when technology changes us so much that it slowly influences our behaviors, our habits, and even our thinking? Looking at our current world, we've known already and for quite some time how pervasive and influential social media, AI, and other technological advancements are, modeling the ways we think and do things. But that reading of Cyberpunk 2077, although pertinent, remains at the surface level. In truth, the game goes much deeper than that, thanks to the introduction of the program called Soulkiller, which is capable of digitizing the minds of people and transfer these minds, also known as constructs, to and from physical bodies. To put it differently, corporations have found a way to extract human souls and create digital versions of them before implanting them into other human bodies. The Soulkiller program changes everything and elevates Cyberpunk's scenario to new heights, especially its endings. First, the program highlights how corporate colonialism not only succeeded in conquering and controlling human bodies, as it also conquered human minds. And once a soul or mind is extracted from a body, it's stored in Mikoshi, a data center acting as a soul prison since it contains the digitized personalities of people who either willingly transferred their mind into cyberspace in order to become immortal, or who got forced to do so by the Soulkiller program. For Johnny, Mikoshi is the most frightening tool corporations have, as it can capture someone's soul and transfer it into another body, creating puppets and other atrocities. The process often appears in the cyberpunk and sci-fi genres, but also in the horror genre, like in the movie Get Out. And this whole process, whether in Cyberpunk or Get Out, is called mind uploading and has been the subject of many experiments and research over the years. While impossible in reality, Cyberpunk uses it as an allegory of corporate control and how far it's willing to go. Johnny summarizes what's at stake very well, stating,
"Of all the destruction and pain corps wreak round the world, what happens at Mikoshi is worst. Know why?
They strip you of your right to die.
No different than being kept alive on a respirator. That ain't the worst bit. Worst things when they switch up your identity, and you never even know you've become someone else. Corps have already taken the world for their own. Now they're coming for us."
Johnny's last sentence shines some light on what's at stake here. Now that corporations took control over the available physical and digital spaces in the world, what else is there to colonize? Humans. Humans are the last territory to conquer. Their bodies, but also their souls. Mikoshi and the Soulkiller program both represent the peak of corporate colonialism, because it can now control the last refuge we always thought was impossible to reconfigure, the human mind. Consider for a second what Mikoshi can do. It can digitize anyone's mind, and then it can change it, toy with it, model it according to society's needs. Once that is done, it can transfer that digital construct into a body, thereby creating puppets whose personalities fit what society wants. This aspect of Cyberpunk's story is by far the most engaging and the one deserving all our attention. V is going through something similar. A foreign mind is taking over, erasing their personality in the process. Their body is about to belong to someone else, and the main story is all about trying to solve this by getting Johnny's digitized personality out of V's body. Later in the game, we learn that the only way to do so is by gaining access to Mikoshi and there, extract Johnny's mind using Soulkiller, which would allow V to retain control of their body. This state of things is how the game sets everything up before its grand conclusion. Just a heads up, spoilers ahead. Of course, things don't go as planned. Once we finish the final mission and gain access to Mikoshi, V receives the help of an AI named Alt. Without going into too much detail about Alt's identity, suffice it to say that she was Johnny's former partner, but got digitized by Soulkiller, the program she helped create. The most important and crucial part here is that she manages to use Soulkiller on V, splitting V's and Johnny's personalities, so that V can finally regain full control of their body. A significant problem arises though, as Alt mentions.
There is one aspect I failed to take into account.
Alt? What?
The body is a key factor in this transaction. DNA reconfiguration by the relic has progressed too far. Added to aggressive, invasive medications, the body's immune system attacking its own neurons.
Christ, will you just skip to the end?
After I transfer your construct into your body, you will die. It is inevitable. It is imminent.
No. No way. That was not our deal.
You shall live for about 6 months, perhaps somewhat more.
No. There's gotta be something. Something we haven't thought of.
Your body will see you as an intruder.
But it's my body.
The biochip's nanites have altered it permanently. The body is now Johnny.
The revelation hits hard. If V wishes to live, they would do so for 6 months, as their digital construct would be reinserted into their body, but the body no longer belongs to them. With time, and because of Johnny's relic into V's brain, V's body shifted to now consider Johnny as the owner and V as the intruder. Remember the ship. It's as if V got dismantled piece by piece, slowly replaced by Johnny. That replacement then leads to V being rejected by their own body, because the ship has changed too much. Now, 2 main options are offered to the player, even if I will mention a third option later on. The 2 options are, either V retains their body, but get to live 6 months or a bit more before dying, since their body is rejecting them, or V gives up their body to Johnny, who gets a chance to live again. This is where things get complicated because of the ramifications related to these options. What does it mean for a digital construct to integrate a body? What happens to the mind? Would V or Johnny be the same as they've always been, or would they be different? The ending of the game presents a conundrum. Is it even worth it to live a life as a construct inserted into a body? Alt provides a hint at what happens in the process when she claims that she can reinsert V's psyche into their brain.
Meaning you can transfer his psyche back into his brain?
As if onto a blank, virgin partition.
This quote explains everything about the endings of Cyberpunk. If we choose for V to live on for 6 months, will that V be the same one as before, or rather a copy forced into a blank partition? Earlier, we saw that Johnny was frightened by the fact that Soulkiller was able to insert a psyche in anyone's body. But what if this psyche is yours? A construct of you that's like you, but not fully, not exactly, a replica of the original. How much of you is there? At the beginning of the game, when V is shot in the head by Dex, V revives thanks to Johnny's relic. So in a way, V is already someone else. But in this case, the change happens slowly. V remains themselves for most of the game up until Johnny takes over. The state of things is different at the end of the story. V's psyche is now a digital one that can be inserted into their body. The psyche is a pure digitized copy, and so in effect, a foreign one that emulates V without truly being them. On paper, the 6 months choice sounds terrible. Not only would it be a short-lived life, but it would also be a fake one due to the technically foreign psyche. However, choosing this ending and leaving Night City with Panam, for instance, to enjoy the next 6 months doesn't seem terrible when watching it. Both Panam and V look like they want to make the most of their time together, and seem at peace with things. In addition, the end credits show Misty having done a tarot reading for V. She says,
"Hey V, listen, I was just thinking about you, so I laid out a quick tarot. I know the reading's not as strong without you here, but we haven't seen each other for so long, and well, one thing led to another. You know what I drew? The chariot, the lovers, and the sun. Looks like you've got a good life ahead of you out in the Badlands. Good luck, V. Be free."
The cards being pulled are worth mentioning. The Lover's card represents the choice V made, while the Chariot symbolizes a desire to go forward, and the Sun is all about victory and joy. That reading leads Misty to declare that V will have a good life ahead of them before telling them to be free. In truth, looking at this ending, the digitized construct is not much of an issue. The insertion of V's psyche into their body is in fact a chance to start anew, as a new person, with a new story to write and tell. More precisely, and this is where things get weird, that blank partition is a chance to cut ties with a player. Come to think of it, the player is yet another mind inserted into V's body and controlling it, a mind which can even choose for V and intrude in a similar way as Johnny does. That blank partition Alt talks about can be considered to be V without being controlled by the player, that is, V free from the player's agency, free to live without the player having a say in their life. Consider this, the game always starts with V looking at themselves in the mirror, regardless of the background the player has chosen. That beginning can be understood as a way to show in-game how V looks like after the player designed the character, but it could also be interpreted as a split in V's identity from the get-go. This cannot be a coincidence. By looking at themselves in the mirror, V's body is located both where the player stands and in that mirror, signifying a split the moment the player takes control of V and starts playing the game. The symbolism of the mirror is crucial, as it recalls what Jacques Lacan calls the mirror stage. This stage coincides with the moment babies recognize themselves in a mirror, which, in turn, makes them understand themselves not as the center of the world, but objects that can be viewed from an outside perspective. To put it simply, it's the idea that children recognize their body as something that is part of the world, among other objects. In a way, the mirror stage represents a split within the subjectivity of the child, who never thought that they were an object among others, but rather the center of the world. The mirror acts as a dissociation, a detachment of someone's mind with their representation. It follows, then, that Cyberpunk's first scene uses a mirror to highlight a split between the body and the mind, but also within V. Doing so allows the game to subtly convey the fact that the moment the player takes control, a split happens in V, whose personality is invaded by us, and soon after by Johnny. Moreover, the mirror stage is a critical part of someone's awareness and conception of themselves, for the reason that it gives rise to the mental representation of an I, that is, of a personality, a sense of self. The first scene of the game thus portrays V's sense of self as being shared with the player from the very beginning. I would also add that while V is far from being a child, the game still offers a form of infancy in that the scene is the first one of the game, and as such, represents the early stage of the story, its infancy, if you will. This tension between the player and V is even more obvious when the end of the game shows V in a third person for the one and only time in the whole game, signifying that the player is extracting themselves from V's body and that finally, V can be free from us. The game can then cut to the credits. For V to be free, they need to extract themselves from the player's influence, and the only way for that to happen is to change from first to third person, along with ending the game and letting the credits roll. In light of these reflections, it seems clear that the 6 months choice offers a great ending, as it allows V to cut ties with Night City, with Johnny, and with the player, living truly free for some time. In a way, Misty's message during the credits comes at the perfect time. She tells V to be free, and as soon as we hear that final message, the screen turns black, leaving only the remaining credits before the game ends. Now, a question lingers. Does V live only 6 months or longer? Information about this is contradicting, as Alt claims V could live 6 months or more, while other characters, during the credits, refer to V as if they did manage to live more than 6 months, even saying, till next time, as if V was going to show up in the future. What's certain is that things are unclear regarding the time V has left. The messages during the credits can be perceived both as farewells from V's friends, or as reminders to see one another soon. If we look at these messages more closely, Victor's recording ends with him saying,
Till next time, V.
While Judy says,
Call me sometime. Bye.
Mitch goes,
Take care.
and Rogue,
If you're looking for your next job, you know where to find me.
before Misty finally says,
Good luck, V. Be free.
all these messages stay casual with no hint of drama nor urgency. How come, after having left Night City for what appears to be a month, can people pretend like V is gonna see them soon again? It's not like people don't know about V's condition, as they explicitly refer to it, so they're saying till next time knowing what's going on. But what does that mean? That maybe whether V lives 6 months or more is not what matters, because as long as people remember V, V will still go on, in the memory of those who were close to them. The game's credits are such a brilliant way to end, because V is nowhere to be seen, but that's okay. They go on living, being, through the voice of others. This is precisely how V can live more than 6 months. We get a glimpse of how impactful V was for people, and these relationships are what makes them endure, what makes them who they are. What I've shown thus far mostly come from the star ending, also known as the nomad ending, which presents V with Panam on their way to Arizona, leaving Night City behind and starting a new life. Although bittersweet due to V's limited lifetime, this is one of the best endings in a game. Some players argued that V should continue to fight corporations like Johnny did and go out in a blaze of glory, which you can do with the Sun ending, which sees V on their way to attack the Crystal Palace, a space station orbiting around the Earth and in which resides many corporations. That ending does fit V's idealistic views of dying in a spectacular way, becoming an enduring legend in a way Johnny did. However, I do find the Star ending to be more subtle and in line with ways to save oneself from technofeudalism and corporate colonialism. Leaving Night City and choosing a new, less spectacular life doesn't equate to abdicating and losing the fight. In fact, it represents another form of resistance against corporations, in that this new life is quieter, distanced from the over-reliance on technology and the digital realm owned by corporations. By being away from the never-ending digital buzz of the city and its techno-centered structure, V can diminish their participation to this harmful society. This is a strength of the Nomad ending. Severing ties with Night City and being on the road allows for another life to emerge. Importantly, the name of the ending, the Star, happens to also be a tarot card, one that represents hard-won liberation from societal conventions. The fact that V and Panam both decide to go to Arizona and the Badlands is no coincidence. The Badlands symbolizes isolation, but also strength against adversities. It's a harsh terrain that requires resilience, so V going there is not an act of cowardice. Rather, it's a refusal of a technocratic society and the acceptation of a more difficult, less convenient lifestyle that enables oneself to break free from technofeudalism. Without a doubt, The Star is a compelling ending as it presents V getting away from ultra-violence and mercenary adrenaline. V may no longer hold the world at their fingertips, but the nomadic lifestyle provides a disengagement from society, and with it, an acceptation of one's own finitude, one's own mortality. Leaving Night City is also refusing to die in the blaze of glory, becoming a legend and thus immortal. For V, that immortality is now bland, artificial just like the one Alt offers when suggesting to go join her in the net and go on as an AI. The nomadic life may be short and dull, but it's one that can be shared, and as such, the only one that truly matters. That said, the game's secret ending, which was added after Phantom Liberty came out, is also very interesting. This alternate path shows V surviving the removal of Johnny's relic, but for that to happen, all of V's cyberware implants had to be removed. At first, the protagonist seems to no longer be themselves, now very weak and unable to fight back a few thugs, but what may be perceived as sad may also be a chance to start anew. With no implants, V's body is truly theirs, having no ties to mega corporations. In other words, it's like cancelling the Faustian deal and putting the devil at bay. While no longer having access to the immense power that devilish megacorporations were giving to V, the protagonist has the opportunity to get their life back and reduce their participation to technofeudalism. Similar to the Nomad ending, V distances themselves from the over-reliance on corporate technology and digital platforms. However, V did so not by choice but by necessity, given how the relic's removal led to complications forcing to no longer use implants. That detail results in the ending feeling bittersweet, V's new life being imposed on them, rather than a voluntary choice. Is there such a thing as a conclusion to a game like Cyberpunk? Much has been said here, and yet much could still be said about the game and its story. This new interpretation shines some light on the society portrayed by the game, and how close that society is to our own. The resemblance between our world and the one in Cyberpunk reads like a cautionary tale. The insertion of Johnny's relic into V's mind, resulting in a personality split and loss of soul, can be understood as technofeudalism's insertion into every aspect of our lives. In effect, Johnny's relic is an allegory of the new technologies we embrace and live with, technologies which chip away at us and change everything we thought we knew about ourselves. Technology is now a part of us and the way we live, act, and think, just like Johnny is sharing V's body and thoughts. The frightening part is not Johnny himself and his personality, it's the fact that V's soul is slowly being devoured by the relic. Varoufakis's book warned us about this. The more we consume corporate technology, the more we feed it, and the more we are being consumed by it in return. The same goes for V, and we can learn a lot from it. Cyberpunk is a brilliant testament to a corporate world gone too far, and whose reach extends beyond life and death. Against such overwhelming power, the little we can do is to be more punk than cyber. Thank you for joining me on this interpretation of Cyberpunk 2077. If you enjoyed this video, please show your support by subscribing and liking the video. I'll see you all in the next one.